मैं तो दिल्ली में रहता हूँ और रेडियो फीजी रेडियो फीजी रोज सुनता हूँ।
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन।
In the news tonight, Narere family picks up pieces after TC Herald. Record arrests for curfew and social gathering breaches. And market stall fee waiver announced.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jamie Toro.
A family in Narere is slowly picking up pieces after the horrific tornado during Tropical Cyclone Herald damaged their home. The family of 7, who are still coming to terms with the loss of their mother, now have to think about rebuilding their house. Apinisa Wangarandobo reports.
A double tragedy for Sakete Mbalimbua, who says they are still trying to come to terms with the incident last Wednesday.
We just buried my wife on the 1st of this month, and my mum and mother-in-law were both with us the night our roof was blown. It lasted about 5 minutes, and it was a scary experience.
The tornado ripped the roof of the house at around 4 a.m. This family, who are from Laos, have been residing here since 1991, and this is the first time they experienced such an ordeal.
My mum, who is 78 years old, now has a fractured knee and can't move around, so what she did with my mother-in-law was hide under the mattress. As the wind was blowing away the iron rods, for myself, I had to take my children to a corner, which was not affected.
Malembua's neighbor Kashiram says while they are lucky to escape damage, it was a scary experience.
We all woke up because the wind only lasted a while, but it shook our neighbors' houses too, and we were all scared.
The family in this neighborhood say they are counting their lucky stars that no one sustained injuries during the severe tropical cyclone and have banded together to help each other in this time of difficulty. Apinisa Wangarandobo, FBC News.
Police Commissioner Brigadier General Sitibeni Ngiliho says even in the current health crisis, professional police conduct must be maintained. The commissioner says despite there being no formal complaint, they followed up on allegations on social media that a minor was roughed up while being arrested for breaking curfew. Ngiliho says when they reached out to the Twitter account holder, the post was removed and they are now trying to track down the person responsible. Maggie Boyle reports.
Recently, posts appeared on social media that alleged police brutality, a claim the police commissioner has dismissed.
No, we haven't gotten any complaints. Somebody had tweeted that he was aware that there may have been some young people who have been roughed up. We reached out to the person. He's taken the tweet down. We are finding him. If he's looking for him, if we find him, we'll charge him and take him to court.
Fake news, he says, is a growing concern and one that has no place as they continue to work around the clock as a critical component in the COVID-19 response.
We don't need that. There's enough that's there for government and all its departments and agencies to look after. There's more good things for us to focus our efforts on. We don't need those unnecessary distractions by irresponsible and selfish people.
Brigadier General Ngiliho maintains police officers are constantly reminded of their code of conduct.
We will always serve the people of Fiji, and we'll keep reminding our officers to be professional about things because it just takes one officer to do something wrong. And all the good work that the thousands of police officers are doing around the country will be tarnished. Meanwhile,
police have increased their checkpoints around the country to clamp down on any unnecessary movement by the general public. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
With 193 arrests in the last 24 hours, the police commissioner says those arrested are a classic example of the selfish group. Of the total arrests, 139 had breached social gathering restrictions, 53 for curfew breaches, and 1 individual was arrested for breach of lockdown restrictions. The Western Division recorded 58 social gathering breaches as people were still found gathering in numbers for kava or drinking sessions. Similarly, the Eastern Division recorded 30 social gathering breaches, mostly in rural areas. There were 27 in the South, which included arrests in Vanuatu, 18 in the Central Division, and 6 in the North. Courts around the country have been busy throughout this Easter weekend. This as special court sittings were held for those who are alleged to have breached the curfew and lockdown measures in place amid COVID-19. 42 people appeared in the Suva Magistrates Court this morning with a total of 15 charges laid. A handful of them were charged in groups as they are alleged to have taken part in social gatherings. Others are alleged to have gone out from their homes during the curfew hours. The number of people arrested since the curfew measures were put in place has shown fluctuation. Last night's arrests increased again to 193 from 150 the day before. Some people also appeared in court for alleged malicious posts on social media relating to current restrictions. Good news for stall holders at all municipal markets who will not have to pay fees for the next 11 weeks. The waiver is from 13th April until 30th June. However, it comes with conditions. It is only applicable on the first 2 stalls of any vendor. Kritika Kumar reports.
While the waiver will mean loss of revenue for the municipal councils, it has been done to help those vendors who are feeling the pinch of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Council will be losing revenue. We will be losing revenue, but we have to sustain it. We have to provide the service with lesser money now. We just have to deal with it.
There are more than 5,000 municipal council stalls.
The stall fee ranges from 75 cents a day to around $3.85 for a grog stall holder. So it varies from 75 cents right up to $3.85.
The waiver comes with conditions, says the minister.
So if a person has more than 2 stalls, then he or she will receive stall fee waiver for the first 2 stalls. And after that, then that person will be paying the appropriate fee for each subsequent stall.
Premila Kumar says it is surprising to see that some vendors have more than 30 stalls.
There are vendors who have started operating a distribution center. They're distributing other items into supermarkets. But markets are places really for fresh produce.
Suva's main market alone has 677 stalls, Lotuka 963, Lambasa 865 and Nosori can have up to 748 stalls operating on a weekend. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Up ahead, private contractors assist with power restoration and Fiji Airways complete evacuation and freight flights. This and more coming up.
Natanggo aproslan karse go erkraki do televizyon navarong na Radio Fiji 1 nandom ibit
Radio Fiji 1 nandom.
Energy Fiji Limited has engaged several private contractors to assist with power restoration. Chief Executive Hasmukh Patel says in the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Herald, there is considerable work underway to restore power supply to affected areas. Maggie Boyle tells us more.
Power outages have been recorded in several parts of Viti Levu, Vanua Levu and Overlau in the wake of the cyclone. Given the restoration required, additional help has been sought.
So these are certified contractors who, in fact, they do work for us throughout the area. For example, all these new rural electrification projects that the government funds to put power into areas where the power supply isn't there, all these projects are carried out by these contractors. But these contractors right now, we are using them to repair the lines because they have the skills.
Patel says with around 10,000 kilometres of their network to be inspected and repaired first before the power supply can resume, safety is paramount.
It's not a question of rushing. There are people sometimes say, can you please speed up? What do you mean by speed up? We don't want any accidents. We don't want to kill anyone. And that's the reason we want to make sure that we work very safely and we are able to restore power supply safely to everyone's home without causing any injury to EFL staff or our customers.
The CEO says they are working around the clock with the aim to restore power supply across all affected areas by the end of this week. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
Fiji Airways completed another round of evacuation and freight flights yesterday. From March 23rd to date, Fiji Airways has evacuated 1,157 visitors back to Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Singapore, Japan and Samoa. In that period, the national carrier safely brought 561 Fijians back home. Chief Executive Andre Filion says they are working closely with respective governments and diplomatic missions to schedule and operate more evacuation flights in the coming days. Since April 3rd, Fiji Airways has flown close to 88 tons of exports from Fiji, including produce like ndalo, kava, turmeric, herbs, as well as seafood, garments, mail and other items. Fillion says he's proud of the way his team stepped up to repatriate citizens and transport essential supplies to and from Fiji. Overseas, and the United States has now overtaken Italy to have the highest death toll from coronavirus in the world, with more than 20,000 deaths. This as bleak pictures have emerged of a mass grave in New York, where record-breaking numbers of coronavirus deaths continue to rise. New York State now has more COVID-19 cases than any single country. A river cuts through a rock not because of its power, but its persistence. This rings true for tonight's successful Fijian Jennifer Kalek-Wainingolo, who says her journey to becoming one of the top female physiotherapists in the country was not an easy one. Karalaini Tavi with the story.
Growing up in a biracial family, Wainingolo says she was often bullied by her peers.
I would be teased because of who my dad was. I don't exactly look like an Indian, so I would be teased a lot. I would be bullied because of that, and that's one thing that it kind of pushed me. It made me want to be something in life.
She was inspired by one of Fiji's prominent physiotherapists, Kathy Wong, and enrolled at the Fiji National University's Fiji School of Medicine. But getting a qualification did not mean all would go smooth for her.
There weren't a lot of jobs for physiotherapists at that time, so I had to volunteer. I spent about 4 years volunteering with the Ministry of Health. It was in Lautoka. I even came to Suva. Whatever I needed to do to maintain my skills, I did.
It was in 2009 when Jennifer Wainingolo landed a job with Samoa Rugby Union and her career took a turn.
And I think that's what got me noticed, if I may say. The Fiji national team, the Flying Fijians, toured Samoa while I was living there. They told me about a vacancy that would be coming up, which I applied for, and I got it. So straight from Samoa, I moved back to Fiji and I joined Fiji Rugby, and I've been with them ever since.
Working in an elite sport, particularly in the National Rugby 7s and 15s team, has been a turning point for her.
Going to the Olympics as part of the women's team, that was a huge moment for me. The Fijiana actually opened the rugby at the 2016 Rio Olympics. They played the first game, and that was a very special moment, you know, to join them out there, to walk out into the field with them, the feeling, the atmosphere, like nothing prepared me for it.
Wainingolo's message to other physiotherapists or aspiring ones is to always set their standards high and never compromise their ethics.
Set your standards high and never compromise your standards no matter what. Stick to your ethics. Often, I find myself working with men. I'm usually the only female in a male environment, and it's extremely important to me to have boundaries.
Wainingolo is the first female in the South Pacific to be certified under the World Rugby Medical Training Course, and she says she is using her knowledge to upskill other local physiotherapists. Karalaini Tavi, FBC News.
Coming up, 40% pay cut for FRU staff and players. And national swimmers look at alternative training methods. This and more after the break.
My name is Neha and I'm from Kadavi. And Mirchi FM, it's hot.
Mirchi FM, it's hot.
The staff and contracted players of the Fiji Rugby Union have taken a 40% pay cut. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating impact on Fiji and other sporting fraternities globally, which has resulted in the union's decision to make the substantial cuts to keep afloat. FRU Chief Executive John O'Connor says the pay cuts affects everyone on the union's payroll.
Contract, their current contract expires at the end of August. But at the moment, since everyone in Fiji Rugby has taken a 40% pay cut to save costs, all of them too have been impacted by the pay cut, but they are still on their contracts expire at the end of August.
Meanwhile, the Fiji National Sports Commission says the FRU is yet to advise them if international coaches will also be getting pay cuts, but are aware that the FRU has taken cuts in their administration and operational team. Fijiana reps Rachel Indaveua and Asinate Savu will be back in contention for the Tokyo Olympic squad. The two were ruled out of the Sydney Sevens in Australia earlier this year due to injuries and have been recovering well, according to head coach Sayasi Fuli. He says they were doing rehab prior to the COVID-19 restrictions and are currently doing personalized training.
They've done their prehab. Before the Maris 7, they have started with running, stability running, movement, agility running, and I can tell that the crisis is good for them because it will help them recover well.
Rugby league bosses continue to talk a big game around a potential return to NRL action next month. They're walking a tricky path, as the last few days have all too clearly shown. Now they've come across another sizable hurdle as the clock continues to tick. The closure of all sporting centres around the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic has left national swimming reps looking for alternative ways to train. Taichi Vakasama, Epeli Rambua, Netani Ross, Temafa Yelimaiwai, Moana Wind, Matelita Mbuon Romo, Cheyenne Roba and Yolani Blake are 8 swimmers vying for 2 universality places for the Tokyo Olympics next year. Fiji Swimming President Ben Roba says the swimmers are working with their individual coaches on land training exercises.
Working with all the individual coaches, I know it's been tough for them, but they've been doing their various land training exercises. Some have been accessible to some private pools where they're able to use those pools. But that's really as far as how they've been working on right now.
Mainly fine weather conditions prevailed over Fiji today. Looking to the west, more sun than clouds with a stray shower this afternoon. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, a mixture of sun and clouds with mostly pleasant conditions. Up north, mostly sunny and hot conditions. At sea, southeast winds of 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas with moderate southerly swells. The next high tide is at 10:41 p.m. with a low tide at 4:32 tomorrow morning. Sunrise will be at 6:15. For tomorrow, cloudy periods with some showers over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. Elsewhere, fine apart from possible afternoon or evening showers. Temperatures in all major centers will be fairly cool, hitting 30 degrees or lower. Looking further on to Tuesday, mostly fine conditions. Recapping the main stories, Narere family picks up pieces after TC Herald record arrest for curfew and social gathering breaches, and market stall fee waiver announced. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM to our poll question. This week we're asking, should anyone found breaching COVID-19 isolation restrictions be charged? Visit our FBC website to answer. You can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our Facebook page, FBC News. That's your 7 p.m. FBC News for this Sunday. I'm Jamie Toro. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Please take care and stay at home as much as possible in these tough times.
Bola, I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka, and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.